an ancient time, beneath a clouded sky, there lay a forgotten village nestled deep between the mountains. Mist clung to the slopes like a shroud, winding through narrow paths and wrapping itself around the small, weather-worn homes scattered along the valley. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and old stone, and the only sounds were the whispers of the wind and the distant calls of unseen birds. In this secluded place, the villagers gathered around a fire, their faces illuminated by its warm, flickering glow as shadows danced across their features. Above them, the clouds began to part, revealing the faint glimmer of stars piercing through the fog, casting a silver light over the mountain peaks. At the heart of the circle sat the master, his cloak heavy with age and travel, his eyes reflecting the glow of the fire and the secrets of countless years. He lifted his hand, weathered and scarred, pointing to a gap in the clouds where a swath of stars lay scattered across the sky like jewels on dark velvet. "Listen closely," he began, his voice a low, resonant murmur that held the night itself still. "For tonight, I will tell you a story as old as these mountains, as distant as the stars. It is the tale of a great journey, a voyage across the very fabric of existence. Once those stars formed a single constellation, a mighty ship known as Argonauts, the great ship which sailed the heavens itself." The villagers leaned in, eyes wide, as the master's voice wove through the smoke and mist. He continued, "Long ago, the sky held a constellation of immense size, the grandest of all, Argonauts. But in time, it was divided, broken into the constellations we know now as Carina, the keel, Puppis, the stern, Vela, the sails, and Pyxis, the compass. Yet, it was more than a collection of stars. It was a symbol, a tribute to one of the oldest tales ever told, the journey of the Argonauts." The master looked up at the stars, his voice softening. The Argonauts were a band of heroes, led by a young man named Jason. He was no ordinary youth. He was the son of a king, raised in exile by the wise centaur Chiron. When he came of age, he set out to reclaim his throne, but his uncle, who had taken the crown, offered him a cruel bargain. "Retrieve the Golden Fleece," he said, "and the throne will be yours." The Golden Fleece was no ordinary treasure, the master explained, his gaze intense. It came from a divine ram, a creature sent by the gods, whose fleece shone with the light of the soul itself. It was guarded in a distant land by a sleepless dragon and two bulls that breathed fire. Jason accepted the challenge, knowing that his journey would lead him to face trials beyond imagination. The villagers listened, rapt as the master described how Jason sought out Argos, the greatest shipbuilder, who crafted a magnificent vessel, blessed by the goddess Athena herself. This ship, enchanted and wise, became known as the Argo. With his vessel, Jason gathered a crew of heroes, the Argonauts, the swift navigators. Among them were mighty Hercules, the twin stars Castor and Pollux, and Orpheus, whose music could charm even the most ferocious of beasts. The master's voice deepened, thick with mystery. Their journey across the sea was treacherous, filled with storms and monsters, gods and temptations. They sailed through places no man had ever been, facing their own fears and desires as they crossed the ocean of their own souls. Each Argonaut faced trials that pushed them to their limits, forced them to question who they were. And finally, they arrived at Colchis, the land of the Golden Fleece. There, the master explained, Jason's true test awaited. The king of Colchis would allow him to take the fleece, but only if he could tame the fire-breathing bulls, sow a field with dragon's teeth, and face the dragon that guarded the fleece. In despair, Jason knew these tasks were beyond him. Yet in the darkness, hope came to him in the form of Medea, the king's daughter, a sorceress of great power who fell in love with him. She used her magic to lull the dragon to sleep and tame the bulls. And thus, with her aid, Jason took the Golden Fleece. The master's face grew solemn. But this was no fairy tale. Jason returned victorious, yet his story was one of tragedy, not triumph. For though he possessed the fleece, he had not earned it through courage, but through enchantment. When he returned to Iolcus, his uncle still withheld the throne. Driven by rage, Medea used her powers to curse the king, and though Jason claimed victory, it was hollow. His ambition grew, and he eventually betrayed Medea. Alone and abandoned, Jason's life descended into ruin, and he died a broken man, forgotten by the world. The fire crackled as the master let his words settle over the villagers. This, my friends, is the story of the Argonauts, but it is more than just a tale of adventure. It is a lesson. The Golden Fleece was not a prize to be seized, but a light within, a treasure of the soul. Jason's tragedy is a reminder that a true hero's journey is not one of conquest, but of self-mastery. To sail through life is not to conquer, but to understand oneself. The master pointed once more to the sky, where the stars of Argonauts glimmered faintly. Look up. Once, these stars formed a single constellation, but now they are divided, just as our own soul is divided when we do not know ourselves. Carina, the keel, represents the foundation, the spine of our being. Pupis, the stern, is our direction, the rudder that steers our choices. Vela, the sails, catches the wind of our thoughts and intentions, and Pyxis, the compass, is our heart, the true guide, always pointing us home. The master's gaze swept over us, his voice filling the night air. Each of us must become the captain of our own ship, the navigator of our soul. Like the Argonauts, we are called to face our fears, our doubts, our inner dragons. And in doing so, we discover that the true Golden Fleece lies within, waiting for those brave enough to confront themselves. Remember, he said softly, the hero's journey is not about reaching an end. It is about the way we journey, the choices we make, the courage we hold, and the light we uncover within. Jason's mistake was believing the fleece could be taken by force. That glory was his to seize. But true victory is found only in humility, in knowing oneself. The villagers sat in silence, the weight of the master's words pressing upon them, as though they too now felt the pull of destiny in their own hearts. Look to the stars, the master said, his voice now a whisper, for they are the map of the soul. Each of you is a captain. Each of you has a golden fleece to find, not in some distant land, but within. Sail not for glory, but for wisdom. Become the true Argonaut. Navigate the seas of your spirit, and know that the compass you seek is already within you. With these final words, the master fell silent, and we were left gazing upward, feeling the call of the journey within, knowing that the story of the Argonauts was not only of the past, but of every heart gathered around that fire. And as the stars watched over us, we knew that the journey of the soul had already begun. The villagers sat in silence, the weight of the master's words pressing upon them, as though they too now felt the pull of destiny in their own hearts. For a while, no one spoke. They simply sat, eyes lifting from the fire to the vast heavens above, where the stars seemed closer than ever, a map of light that had always been there, waiting patiently for them to look up. The master remained seated, his gaze soft and unwavering, watching each face around the circle as though he saw their paths unfolding before them. This journey, he murmured, is not one to be taken lightly, but neither should it be feared, for it is in each of you already. The courage you seek, the wisdom you desire, they are but the light, waiting to be uncovered within you. Slowly, the villagers rose, each one holding within them the spark of something profound, a stirring they could not yet name, but that filled them with a quiet, undeniable purpose. One by one they nodded to the master, a silent gesture of understanding and respect, and turned to walk the narrow paths back to their homes. They moved with reverence, as if carrying a great secret, their eyes glancing up to the stars that now felt closer somehow. As the last of them disappeared into the night, the master sat alone by the fire, watching the embers fade to ash. Above, the constellation of Argonauts glimmered faintly, its story written in starlight across the heavens, a story that, like all great tales, had no true ending, but would live on in the hearts of those brave enough to heed its call. With a final quiet glance at the sky, the master rose, his silhouette merging with the shadows as he, too, disappeared into the mist-laden mountain paths, leaving only the stars to light the way for those who would follow.